How are you feeling?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Hello?
Hola, how you doing, buddy?
Very good. How are
Oh,
you?
I see you. How you doing?
All good, all good, all good, all
I've
good.
literally just been jotting down some notes. It's been an absolutely heaving one. I've just sat down and then been told to write about 5 different articles in the space of 2 hours. So not too hectic.
But good to go.
Yes, I'm good to go. So just as a bit of a pre-context for you, because I know I'm very, very vague, I just had a call with the production guys this morning, actually, where basically we're trying to find a more creative way to come at content. So I work in social media marketing. I trained as a nutritionist, personal trainer. So I'm very much in the fit space, you know, the stereotypical, you've got the guys who, hi guys, and then they've got the bog standard thumbnail and they tell you about their training session and how hard everything is. But every video is the same. Every recipe video is the same. They all follow the same format. And I'm trying to find a way to be more creative in media. Naturally, I started thinking of your filmmaking. So I just wanted to talk to you about, like, what was your start in filmmaking? You know, why is it that you produce the films you do, or the way that you produce them? So how did you start?
Yeah, we know each other from like university.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where we got to know each other, and,
Yeah.
and that was a very kind of hectic time,
Yeah.
and different various things happening, and that was great. So that's actually when everything kind of started in a quite a professional and professional way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I graduated at the Northern Film School in 2018.
Yeah.
And I completed my studies with a fantastic short film, which is about a psychic medium who recalls a tragic memory from her past, and it went very well into festivals, international film festivals all over the world. And now it's got an online distribution, and it will be online from September on. So so yeah, it's been so much fun to just discover filmmaking at university. That was the name of the course, of the actual course. So filmmaking, and there I discovered quite a few different kind of genres, like documentary, like fiction, like experimental filmmaking, and I never kind of fully understood that there were so many different categories for each kind of film.
Yeah.
So that and then I discovered that there is also commercials, and you get into the professional world, and you start figuring out you find out that there are different ways of telling stories.
Yeah.
For online content and for all the different kind of platforms.
Yeah.
Now we are going very deep. So I wasn't taught in university about the digital world. We talked about it, but we never kind of approached it because the university was more oriented towards the festival world, which is for storytelling, but also the digital world is starting to Netflix and all these platforms to kind of go into narrative as well, so into narrative content and into telling proper stories as well. Yeah. Commercial is doing it from a long time, so they started doing it. They are more oriented towards the digital world, but they keep the narrative way as well, depending on the kind of commercial. Of course, there are different genres within the genre, so it's very mixed. It's very varied. It's full of different various creative inputs, and I found that you can be like a creative, but you need to know what is that you want to tell. Like what is the kind of creative input that you want to give to your content. So to your videos and to your photos or whatever. So yeah, the first thing I'd say is like know exactly what that you want to tell. And once you have that in mind, then you can start thinking about not the content but the box. So what's outside that can where you put your content inside, you know. So you need like a structure, like something that has got a shape, and you have an idea of what is that you can put inside then afterwards. But I think that you got this quite well, because I remember you doing the nutritionist videos. That were very much fun, because I found it very funny as well. And quite
so cringy
as well.
They're so cringy now. I look back and I'm like,
I enjoyed them. When I watched them.
Well, it's funny what you say about structure, because obviously I work from a commercial point entirely. So in digital marketing, it's all about, you know, what does the consumer want? What am I selling? How can I get them to want what I'm selling? That is the crux of marketing, is who's going to buy what you're selling, and how can you make them want to buy it? The challenge comes, I think, you know, when I did those know-how nutrition videos, I was following that basic structure that everybody does. You do your introduction to try and seem relatable, and then you get into the content, and then you do the roundup. But when I watch them back now, I just see the way I do it being the same as everybody else. You know, there's no unique voice there, like there is in, say, the festival scene and the creative media scene, because when you see a film by, say, Hitchcock, you know it's a film by Hitchcock. Whereas if you watch a film by a YouTuber, they're all so similar. Everybody follows that same vlog format, and they follow the same box. So how can someone find a new perspective on the same box? Because you're doing the same thing. It's the same box. It's selling the same thing. But how can you take that box and then make it look like that box whilst keeping it in the box, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I believe it's more like yourself. So I think it's a very ego thing as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Like find out, you know, who you are and how you fit within that genre. So like in terms of personality, you know, that's something that I mentioned quite recently. I received an award, and they asked me what was my inspiration, and I said the two inspirations for any filmmaker should be personality and creativity in its own terms. So I believe like discovering something about yourself first, it's what makes you interesting, because then you have something to say to other people, so not just to the camera but to the world. You know, so like you have to kind of connect with the topics that people are looking for. So we're talking about customers or clients, but also any person on social media, or even your friends. And then when you got that when you have an idea of it, then you kind of start to work on this. I started working on that, and then, you know, building on that. And when you have that in mind, that's a very good starting point. So starting to have a kind of a ground level on yourself, like literally as a person. Like, because what I found about most YouTubers, for example, is that they are very similar. Like there is a very, it's hard to find someone who stands out, and who has some really like good stuff to say. But I found this Italian YouTuber who literally says nothing, but is extremely creative in the way he edits the video. Him as a person as well he's funny, and he's got a very catchy way of grabbing people's attention without being too pushy or you know, without trying too much to be someone, but going in the opposite direction, you know, like literally like just for fun, you know. And you see that he has a lot of fun making these videos. Like he does it because he likes it, because it's part of his life. Like it's part of his routine. It's part of his work. So, and he started doing it when he was very young as well. So like even I think 12 or 13 or around that age. So like I think that also experience to some extent is helpful. Like,
well, I think there's a natural increase in quality over time, isn't there? Because when you first start out, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to find something that sticks. But even if it's absolute garbage, spending a few years, no matter how rubbish it is, you start to identify that voice somewhat, especially if you started when you was like 12, 13.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess with you know, a bit of time and some patience and work on your content and kind of trying to make videos, continue to, you know, keep on making videos and discovering like what you like to talk about. It was there you had the nutrition first, then you changed your mind and you went on something else. So like discovering the things that you like. As with film, you find genres, and you know that there are different genres. With you know, with nutrition, there is nutritionism, there is all the different kind of topics that might be relatable to you because you have an interest into it. And you can find them, and now it's so easy. You find them online. You can Google something, and you find out a lot of research about it, and you can just dig into it as much as you want. So so that's amazing. Like, that's something that, you know, I don't think like my dad or someone like from his age would have ever done before, because there was no internet, and now it's so easy. So so yeah, I think with some patience and kind of keep on making things, especially at the start, you know, keep on making and making and making. And making it an habit, you know, like something that you just have as something as your daily life. I looked up your name on Facebook because I wanted to see what was your latest thing, and I found that the 25 push-ups challenge. And that's I was interested because I'm always like, is he gonna make it? Is he not gonna make it?
Yes, that one actually. We did the first one, and then we did like a couple of days, and then it was, we need to edit this, and then it was something else happened, and then something else happened. Then it got stuck in the ether, and then I completely forgot I was doing them. It just disappeared out of my head completely. And then it popped up on my suggested sponsored post, and I was like, "Oh balls! I forgot I was doing that." So what we did with that one was actually, so I was nominated by someone, and then he became a little bit micromanaging me, you know, messaging me at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, telling me to do stuff, and I was like, "Oh, it's just push-ups." So I pushed that aside. So we're going to come back to that one, because the whole purpose of the push-ups was, it's a daily video. Let's have something we can work on daily and keep editing over and over and over. But the team I'm working with at the moment, they are full-time, you know, so it's a full-time video editor, a full-time storyboard artist. I work full-time as well. So finding the time every single day, although I can film it, for them to edit it was a nightmare. How do you find it when you work with a team? When you're, say, trying to work on a project, how easy do you find it working as part of a team? Do you think it makes it easier to get that production, or is it easier just to do it yourself to make sure it's done?
Depends on the project.
Depends
on the project. It's sometimes I find it easy just to be on my own and kind of figure out stuff by myself. But sometimes also kind of figuring out things in a group. It's very helpful because it's like shuffling ideas and kind of figuring out stuff together. It's kind of helpful. And film school was all about that, really. Like, we were put in groups most of the time, and we had meetings, and various meetings where we talked about what we liked and what we liked to put in the film, and the inspirations and all the different kind of things that would have improved and made the film better. So group work is something that I actually learned in university. That I started doing in university, because in Italy we don't have so much group work. It's more like individual in classrooms doing A levels. So at university there, that's where I actually learned to work in a group, and I really liked it. So I learned that I really enjoyed working in groups more than I actually like to work as an individual.
When I used to do mine, it was all by myself. I had to learn how to draw because I couldn't draw, and I wanted to do all my own drawings. I did all of my own editing. I did everything myself, but I wasn't good at very much. Whereas now in a group, we chat for 10 minutes and you get ideas spouting. Why don't we try this? And then you bounce off each other and you get that amazing group dynamic. But it's very tough. I mean, not to talk down on anyone. I just am fully aware that I have the energy of a crackhead. So I will not sleep. You know, I will sleep maybe 3 hours a night because I'll get obsessed with a project. And you cannot expect people to do that with you. So it's a challenge when you all bounce ideas, but it's tough for everybody to find the time to do that, especially when you're at the beginning of a project. That's the only issue I've ever found with it. But you know, it's like you say, working as a group definitely is far more beneficial in terms of creating a greater final product. It's just about, I suppose, like you say, having the patience with it and trying to look at the project as a whole. But this was why we left the daily push-ups, is I was basically spamming in and it couldn't get done because there just wasn't the time to do it. And it's tough to throw spaghetti when not everybody has the ability to throw spaghetti, which is, you know, it's a challenge in its own right, but it's something we can certainly work around. How much time do you normally spend on your projects?
You mean like as a daily?
Yes.
Yeah, it depends. Like there's no rule, and I sometimes I spend like there are moments in which I spend a lot of time working, like even like it's never like a full day. Like I don't have a full day where I'm just into it. But like 2-3 hours a day, maybe if it's a good day. If it's a good day, like that's a good day. That's like I'm right, you know. And this is something I actually talked about with a friend of mine who's a writer and screenwriter. And he writes novels and books, and he's great. And he basically said that and he's like and he thinks, and I think as well, that if you are in good shape, like body shape, you get to work better even on a creative level.
Oh, absolutely,
that's a fact. That's just a fact. And he's like super sporty. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sporty, but not that sporty. So he goes into the gym every day, at least for 3-4 hours a day. So I'm like, okay, wow. And he says that doing that increased his level of concentration and ability in working on his books and on his writing more. So he's more capable of doing it because of the sport he does. Yeah. So and he manages to write like 2-3 hours as well, but the real concentration is around an hour, and then it's kind of going around it. I think I can do quite much the same, but probably less. Like I think that I can do 2-3 hours, but not a full concentration. Full concentration is 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes, then it's kind of gone. But you still have the focus, and you can and adjust, you know, things around that time. So, but that's not even daily. That's maybe one day a week or something like that. So, but I always work towards that. So I know that I want to work, and I want to get to that level. I want to get to that level, and I want to get to that concentration level every now and then.
Get into that flow state.
Exactly. The flow. But also, for example, like writing. I don't think writing. It's an interesting thing, and it comes as a need. Like if you want to write something, then it will come by itself. Like it's something that just it just starts when it starts. You can try to push it and try to make things, but really that starts from the question: what do you want to tell, and when is the right time to say it? And so how can it be, you know, actual as well, like in terms of like what is that fits the time right now. So always try to hang on to something that is quite factual and actual.
I'm a chronic procrastinator. I've literally just submitted an article which I probably had about 5 weeks to write for a magazine, and I wrote it like the day of submission and sent it over. I rely entirely on the flow state. I've got nothing else.
From university. You haven't changed from university.
Not even slightly.
Not even slightly. Me neither. I literally managed to write things one day before and then send it over. when there are deadlines, it's incredible. Yeah.
This article that I was just chatting, I was supposed to do it like last week, and then I've ended up writing. So in total now, I've written 8 articles this morning because I didn't do them last week because they were due today. So naturally, I just have to do it today. But you're right. When you get into that zone, it just pours out. My problem with filmmaking, I mean, historically it was the same. I would think of an idea for know-how nutrition, which was normally something I was studying, and a few people on my course cottoned on that I generally understood things, so they would message me basically asking me for the information they didn't pay attention to in the lecture. And I got sick of it, so I started making YouTube videos on it, and I would give it to people, and then that was the subject, that was the video, was basically because I wanted to just go, watch this. I've done it once, just watch this, now I don't need to explain it again. And that became know-how nutrition. I think the challenge now is we're working in this whole new medium. Obviously, this is, you could call it a podcast, a video interview, but really it's just, I want to get better at this, and this is a medium to do it. I'll do a write-up of this, but how can we find creativity in that? There's a brilliant YouTuber. I had a chat with him just last week called Bo Miles, and what he does is he does the action and then finds the narrative after. And he did one where he only ate beans until he had eaten his entire body weight in beans. And that was his film project. And the entire film is about him trying to find the narrative of why he did it. Do you go into a film with the narrative in mind to begin with? Do you go, this is the story I want to tell? Or do you go, this is the thing I want to do, I'm just going to do it, and then I'll find a reason why later? Which way do you tend to go in with it?
So I think the first one.
Yeah. So you have the story in mind first, and then you produce to tell the story.
Yeah. It's just because I mean, I find it hard doing the opposite. Like maybe for like a YouTuber video, it's improvisation. It's fantastic because you give the like how can I say? Usually the first take, it's always the best take,
Oh yes.
So giving that sort of kind of spontaneity directly to the camera in the first take, improvised, that's great. That works very well, fantastically, I think, on YouTube. Some YouTubers though, I think that they write what they do. So giving that first impression, it's amazing, it's fantastic. But for film, it's a bit different. Like depending on the film you're making, but most probably. I would say 99% of films are made based on scripts. So are all based on scripts. So you have script first, and then you go into the actual making. So but for example, for the experimental module at university, we didn't have a script. We just went for lots of meetings. It was a group film. There was no directors at the beginning, and we started kind of chatting about the film, and we went on shooting without a script. Yeah. So that was the only case where we actually managed to kind of talk about the film, and then eventually shooting it without a script. Yeah. But most of the time there were scripts. Yeah. Documentary maybe is a bit different. Some people write about the film and they write an interview or something like that and then go and shoot it. Some people don't. Some people just like to kind of ask questions without a script and just shoot it. Yeah. But with fiction, I would say 99% of the films are scripted. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's tough as well because it was like you say, your first take's always your best take. We found that I couldn't work from a script. I mean, like we say, I'm the master of procrastination. So writing a script, never mind reading it once I've done it, is just, beyond the pale of anything that's realistic. But we always found that natural energy, but I think it has a risk of becoming rambly. As you probably have noticed right now, I have a habit of going very off topic and the brain just runs away with it. So it's trying to find a way to keep everything around a narrative, but still providing that structure, but also being unstructured. But, and it was like in this conversation, I had some key topics to hit, but it's trying really hard not to get distracted and ramble off the side if you're not using a script, I suppose. So when it comes to editing, that was another question I wanted to ask. When it comes to the way you edit together content, do you rely mainly on the take and the script, or do you find the majority of your work is done in the edit and the way you put together the pieces that you've already got? So do you tend to shoot in a chronological order, or do you put it all together in the order you want after you filmed it?
It happens rarely that you shoot chronologically.
Right.
That quite rarely. Depending on how many days you have to shoot, it can be one day, and even in one day, you probably would shoot piece by piece according to the schedule and to the availability of the location and all the parts of the film that you need to make. So that's something that rarely happens. Like it never happened to me that I was able to shoot like chronologically. But then you go to the edit, so you have that first moment of the shooting, and then you go to the edit and you see the film and you start to watch the rushes, and you kind of figure out that, what's the narrative within the rushes that you have. It's like rewriting the film. It was a director that said that you make the film 3 times, in the writing, in the shooting, and in the post-production. Yeah. So even when you think you have the film like as you want it, then you watch the rushes and you see something else, and that's something important. I think that you should, everybody, every filmmaker, it gets to be surprised, both in a good way and also in a bad way. Yeah. Sometimes by the rushes that you're looking at. So and that's where the skills as a filmmaker kind of comes. That's where you need to use your skills as a filmmaker. Yeah, you need to try to figure out what to do, having the script on your side and production notes on your side as well. So it's like writing. You rewrite the film another time, and you find out things as you edit it and as you go along.
So what's your normal process? Do you write a storyboard and then film according to that storyboard? Is that how you would normally do it?
Yes. Yeah. I like to storyboard. I like to put a storyboard together and kind of picture the film and share that storyboard with the rest of the crew, so that they have like a idea of what I have in mind, and so they can kind of figure out then what's their input as well, because filmmaking is also very collaborative. So given the storyboard, then I make a shot list, and on the shot list, that's what we then use to go on set. And by the time we get to the set, I always want that everybody has crystal clear what we want to shoot exactly. So you don't have to kind of discuss on set what you have to do, but you already everybody knows at that point. And there's no doubt. There's no, everybody has to be crystal clear. And when you have it, then you can shoot, and that's where the film gets when So start. It's like all these documents though, like storyboards and shot list. They are very important, but at some point, like you have to learn them very well. Like you have to even kind of memorize them to an extent. Like have them in mind very clearly. Yeah. And when you have them in mind, kind of take them and throw them away in the bin, right. because you have that knowledge, you have everything in your head, and you don't go with paper on set. Maybe some directors likes to. I took my storyboards on set because they were very nice, and people were very happy to see them, draw them very very well, and so that kind of helped. But I literally put them like next to the camera tray where all the cameras in here were put, and I put them just to the side of the camera, and it stayed there for the whole day. Like I think 2 or 3 people looked at it, and I was quite happy because I think that everybody had in mind what they wanted to do. Yeah. So at that point, the storyboard wasn't needed anymore, and we didn't just use it anymore, because everybody, especially the director of photography, had a very clear idea of what we wanted to do. Even the shot, but the shot list, for example, that's quite helpful, because talking about improvisation and everything, it's a good reference, and that's what usually the first AD, so the first assistant director, who's the person who runs the set and keeps everyone in time and everything in time. He's the one who checks the shot list and checks every shot that has been done so far. So that's also something that, to keep track of the film and to make sure that everything is in place. As a director, I don't go to, okay, we need to go to the next shot. That's not, I kind of figure out just on set, I just figure out what the actors are doing. And I look at a shot. So looking is very important. Looking at a shot and figuring out if it looks nice or not, if you like it or not. And so all the paper kind of, you need to kind of forget about a paper on set. And enjoy what you're looking at, and enjoy the moment as well, the moment in itself, and trying to figure out remember the story, trying to communicate the story in the best way possible with the actors, with the director of photography, and so on. So there are many different aspects that are important before productions, before the shooting, and there are other things that are not so important when it comes to production. Because you already have them in mind.
So when it comes to editing, do you just take the shot list that you filmed and then just edit it according to the same storyboard?
I don't think so. Like I usually, maybe I don't remember looking at a storyboard again when we edited. I definitely, the script, yes. The script is the only thing that actually kind of stays with the editor, and he looks at the edit while looking at the script, and so he knows what's in the narrative, because even if you talked about it for such a long time, you need to make sure that everything is in place in that moment. So probably one of the first things is putting everything in the right order. Because as we said before, we as filmmakers, we rarely shot in chronological order. So you have to put everything back in order, so you can go and edit it as smoothly as possible without going mad, and kind of getting the pace of the film right, and that's all the different all the various steps that come up afterwards. But yes, not the storyboard, but the script, yes, probably.
How much backwards and forwards is there between you and the editor once you've passed on all of the footage and they've got the script and they're piecing it together? How much kind of re-editing is there between you, the director, and the post-production team, between backwards and forwardsing until you get to the final copy? Is it quite straightforward, or is there a lot of debate over things?
So depends. So it depends on the film, depends on the editor as well. Some editors likes to have inputs, so they do like to have feedback, and I as a filmmaker, I like to edit as well. I started editing my own videos, and then with film school, I had the chance to have editors editing the films. So I work with, every time I work with a different editor. I worked with a different editor, and it was all very different experiences. Some editors they like to just go by themselves, and they don't necessarily want to have inputs. They just show you the cut, maybe one of the first cuts, and they say, okay, what do you think here? You give some quick feedback, and then they go on to the next one, and it's better, and it's just better. There are some and so it's fine. There are some other editors who wants to who wants to have some suggestions, and wants to figure out with you what is the the film you want to make, and so they, especially when it's more when when it's more complicated as a film by itself, and the script is more complicated, probably they will come to you and they will ask you for suggestions and tips. At film school, we were also surrounded by tutors, so everybody wanted to follow the edit quite closely, and wanted to have a voice into the edit as well, a say into the edit. So having all those voices can be a bit confusing, and it was a bit confusing. So our mission was to kind of keep everything as clear as possible between us. So when it was coming to the point of going to the tutors, then they were able to kind of say what they wanted, and then we could then go back to it and adjust, taking the best tips that we had from the tutors and put them into the film. Then feedback it can be quite confusing as well, because if you receive too much feedback, then you have so many ideas in your head of how the film should be made, but you want to make it in a certain way. So it was a matter of kind of finding the right tips that aligned with the ideas that me and the editor had. And we kind of became, in my last short film, Virginia, the editor and I were very aligned, because we kind of at that point, after all the pre-production that we spent, all the time spent together in pre-production and figuring out the themes and things and blah blah blah, then we kind of figured out, so we kind of became one single head, So but when it was the time to kind of split and sort of figure out what we thought as individuals, then we were able to do that as well. And so it's a complicated process. It's in between being oneself, but at the same time being critical and being able to assess the ideas of each other critically by thinking what is the more powerful thing. How can we communicate in the most powerful way possible this edit? How can we achieve that? So that was, if that's the mission, so if you have the same aim, then that it will work.
What's your views on perfectionism? Because I used to work with a camera woman when I did Know How Nutrition, and she was always like, when it came to the edit, she was always, don't try and be a perfectionist, to get it close. And once it's close enough, you've got to let it go and then shut up about it. Is that a view that you share, or are you quite a perfectionist in the way you edit your stuff?
I think perfectionism it's a thing. When you want to talk about like things like being as precise as possible, it's possible. You can do it. Like, you should push for your ideas and all that. But if you work with someone and you share your ideas from the start in a group, then people pick up a bit of your brain, and then they can work on their own, and can achieve what you want and what you want as a group at that point. So and it's harder to be perfectionist as a group, because everybody thinks differently. And when in a film, you try to align everybody's ideas and make it like one big idea, that you have together. So at that point, being perfectionist is just a case when you see that the project, as a director, when you see that a project is going a bit off rail, then you go and say, okay, but maybe this could be done this way, because and but it's just like a very mild way of and very subtle way of shaping the corners, and not making it too edgy, and all that. So if you get too, but on the other hand, if you get too controlling, and that it's really not helpful for anybody. So I'd say, like, perfection is, nobody can achieve perfection. You can try to go to achieve that, but it's impossible.
Well, it's like you say, a large part is people management, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can surprise yourself as well. Like, you can surprise yourself, and maybe what you have in mind is perfect in your head, but maybe what comes out is better than what you have in your head.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of thing, letting go of your idea, or your perfect idea, and letting go a bit of that ego idea, and seeing and letting yourself surprise by what you have on screen.
So how do you know at what point a project is done, where you can look at it and go, right, we're done, that's it? How do you know that point?
Deadlines.
Right.
I think having a deadline is it's important. Like that, you have a deadline. You say, okay, on the day 12 we'll be finishing the film, and that's when you finish the film.
Yeah.
So otherwise, with Virginia, we went on for a long time. We changed the film so many times, and it was a long editing because we had a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, but at some point we liked the film. Like we kind of thought, okay, I was like, but we could edit this and we could change that. And the editor was like, I think we are pretty much done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was quite sad because I didn't want to finish the film. That's another thing. You don't want to finish because you are enjoying it so much.
You
don't want to end it. But at the same time, we were all. He was like, I think the film is done, Francesco, now. And I was like, okay, yes, let's wrap it.
So what stage are you at with Virginia now? Is it it's done? Has it done the tours? Has it been around the scene?
Yes, it's been around some festivals, and it's been in London, in New York, in where about Rome, Berlin, even in Albania. So it's in quite a few festivals. And,
you could say that.
And now, and it will be online from September on. I still don't know exactly when, but as soon as I will have the link, I will share it on social media.
Fantastic. As soon as you've got that link, send it over. Yeah, and get as many eyes on it as possible. So have you got any other projects coming up?
I'm on the. There is a project on the way. I have like a screenplay, and now I'm trying to make it. So I'm starting to put together a few ideas and a few people to get the film made.
Fantastic.
And
that's brilliant. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. I said I wouldn't take up too much of your time. I've definitely used up my allotted time, but thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I've got an immense amount of really precise advice there, which is really, really useful. I'm sure for anybody who's any kind of filmmaker will appreciate that. I mean, you are speaking to an idiot. So if I managed to understand it, you clearly explained it incredibly well.
Don't be too hard for yourself, Charlie.
Oh no, my head will get too big. I'll not get out the door if it gets any bigger. Right. Thank you so much for that. I'll let you go. That was absolutely fantastic.
Cheers, Charlie.
Brilliant. Cheers, Francesco. Ta-ra. Bye-bye.